By the 19th century, diplomats across Europe had settled on a specific, dismissive phrase for a fading power in the East: the sick man of Europe. That label masked a stark historical reality. For 600 years, that same empire commanded immense wealth and actively terrified rival nations. Its forces held territory across Europe, Asia, and Africa, acting as a massive physical wall between three continents. To see how an apex predator degrades into a diplomatic punchline, we have to wind the clock back to its exact origins. At the close of the 13th century, the Ottoman state was almost entirely unremarkable. It was a tiny frontier principality, lacking the prestige of the ancient civilizations surrounding it. This map shows the early Ottoman territory wedged right along the fault lines of competing empires. That precarious location turned out to be an incredible advantage. Driven by highly effective warriors and ambitious leadership, they began swallowing up neighboring lands piece by piece. As their borders pushed outward, they needed a prize that would force the rest of the world to recognize their authority. They set their sights on a target widely considered impossible to capture: the ancient capital of Constantinople. Look at the layered stone walls and imposing towers of Constantinople's ancient defenses. For generations, these structures easily repelled the world's most powerful armies. In the year 1453, Sultan Mehmed II arrived to test those ancient defenses. His forces brought massive bronze cannons to the siege, pounding the ancient masonry day after day with heavy stone projectiles. When the city finally fell, the shock echoed across continents. By taking the capital, the Ottomans captured the world's most valuable trade routes connecting the East and the West. Doing the impossible erased their frontier origins. It instantly elevated them into a dominant superpower that rivals could no longer ignore. This animated map shows the rapid expansion that followed. Over the centuries, borders swept outward from Constantinople, blanketing vast sections of Europe, Asia, and Africa. And as those borders locked in, global trade was forced to flow directly through their territory, generating immense wealth. Generations of rulers grew up in an environment where continuous military and economic dominance was expected. This created an illusion of permanence. Success felt completely guaranteed. That psychological shift left their leadership perfectly equipped to manage the past, but entirely unprepared for a rapidly changing future. Governing millions of people across diverse cultures required a vast, highly complex bureaucracy. Over time, that system grew rigid and painfully slow to operate. Meanwhile, European states outside their borders were moving at breakneck speed, embracing industrialization and accelerating scientific innovation. Ottoman leaders attempted to modernize their military and institutions, but entrenched political interests consistently stalled those efforts. As the gap widened, foreign rivals stopped fearing Ottoman strength and started actively preying on their vulnerabilities. The empire still possessed plenty of resources, but its internal machinery was too complex to adapt quickly enough to survive the new realities of the modern era. By the start of the 20th century, the weakened leadership made a desperate gamble. They mobilized their soldiers and entered World War I. The extreme demands of industrial warfare placed enormous strain on an already fractured economic and military foundation. The conflict shattered the state. By the war's end, the surviving territories were divided, and a 600-year political order ceased to exist. While the political state disappeared, its monumental architecture and deep cultural legacy remain embedded in the modern landscape. History itself rarely points to a single lost battle or bad decision as the cause of a collapse. Empires die when they fail to adapt to a world that refuses to stand still.